I think opportunity just comes from following up. I actually heard that quote. I can't remember his name. He's an NFL player. I was at a business academy and he was the big speaker for it. And that was what he said. Fortune is in the follow up. It's where the gold is actually, we get opportunities presented to us. We get, somebody will say, hey, I got this guy who I can introduce you to who does X, Y, and Z. But people don't follow up on those type of opportunities. When people say that, I'll be the guy who follows up. If you ever offer something, just know I'll be asking you about it probably soon.
This is Dream Chasers, episode 58, with Hakeem Valles. Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Adam Carswell, and welcome to Dream Chasers, Interviews with the Future. On Dream Chasers, we interview individuals with supernatural amounts of potential based on early success in their careers. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's get straight to the interview. Hey guys, this is Adam Carswell, and today I'm joined by Hakeem Valles. Hakeem is a multifamily real estate syndicator. He's originally from Winslow Township, New Jersey, went to Monmouth University in Long Branch, New Jersey, and now lives in St. Louis, Missouri. He's got a pretty interesting background as well compared to, I'd say, most real estate investors that we've spoken with here on the show and just in general. So we're going to get into that in a moment. But Hakeem, thank you for being on the show. And do you have any opening remarks for our listeners?
Adam, appreciate the intro. I'm super, super excited. I love the name of your show. Being from South Jersey, Philadelphia area, and being a huge Meek Mill fan, I love the phrase "Dream Chasers."
Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to outperform Meek Mill on the SEO right now with Dream Chasers. I think he still got me beat.
That's hilarious. Well, at least you probably get some traffic driven your way, just
right.
due to the phrase.
Exactly. But guys, so I got to let you know, I first discovered Hakeem on LinkedIn. Hakeem, I think you had, you're a public speaker as well. So one of your videos probably popped up on my feed through a mutual connection. I started looking into your background and I'm like, wow, this guy plays in the NFL and he's talking about investing in commercial real estate and multifamily. That's very different. You don't normally see professional athletes using LinkedIn in the way that you do. It was funny, even before the call just now, I was looking at it was recommending other connections and other people that I should follow or connect with. And it was like Patrick Mahomes. I saw Aaron Brooks pop up in there, a few other. Steph
awesome.
Curry. I just sent Steph Curry an invitation to connect.
That's awesome.
So yeah, you're rubbing shoulders with those guys, which is pretty cool. Definitely puts you in a unique position. And I see that you definitely leverage it to your advantage. So I do want to ask you, how long have you been operating your business as a syndicator? But then if you could also give us a brief background on your NFL experience.
From a syndication perspective, I shifted into the syndication world about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Just finished my first season with the Lions, but second season in the NFL. Because I started off in real estate my rookie year. Actually, I started off in real estate when I was in college. My major is business with a concentration in real estate.
I'm going to cut you off real quick because I just remembered we're so used to saying the word syndicator, but some of my listeners might not know what that is or what that means. So what is a syndicator too?
Oh, so sorry about that. Syndicator is essentially I raise capital from different high net worth individuals and place that capital in different markets, and I purchase multifamily apartment buildings in those different markets. That's probably the simplest definition of it without getting into any SEC verbiage.
Yeah, but you were saying, sorry, about your career as well as an NFL athlete.
Oh yeah, so I started off in real estate when I was in college. I flipped like 10 houses while I was in college and playing, and my major is business with a concentration in real estate. And my rookie year in the NFL, I went undrafted to the Arizona Cardinals, and while I was playing there, just using some wisdom from just witnessing my little brother, who's also an NFL player. After his rookie year, he was locked into a lease when he was playing for the Oakland Raiders. He was locked into a lease for another 6 months after he got picked up from the Raiders and went to the Buffalo Bills of about $3,000 a month. And I'm like, man, that's $18,000 just going straight to air. And I was still in college at the time. So once I made it to the NFL, I realized I was paying about $2,000 a month in an apartment in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm like, that's $24,000 this year. That's just going to go to nothing. And that's when I bought my first property. I bought a 4-unit apartment building using my FHA loan, pretty much using as little as 3.5% down, buying an apartment building. Kind of really got me really going on my own into the real estate investing world. And then as my how my NFL career went after that. After getting cut from the Cardinals, I went to the Detroit Lions for about a year and a half, and then about, I'm thinking probably like week 14 or 13 of this season, I went to the New York Giants and was there for like the final 4 or 5 weeks and retired after this season ended.
And what prompted your retirement? Because I'm sure there's, a lot of people are like, dude, you're in the NFL. Like, you got to play some more seasons. You gotta have this glorious career. What factored into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, after doing 3 years was awesome. It was very, very amazing experience. What I realized is, I had my daughter during preseason of this year when I was on the Lions. We were actually playing the Giants, and we had her the morning of a game. I played that night. And once you have a kid, and once you have one, you'll realize this too. Everything just instantly changes, and your perspective on everything changes. And I'd already been, I'm wildly passionate about real estate and investing in different properties in different markets. I realized that I couldn't be that real estate investor that I wanted to be and be the father that I wanted to be and play in the NFL. It just wouldn't work. Waking up at 6 a.m., not getting back till 5, 6 p.m. And then you only got about an hour or so with your kid. And then you also got to be a fiance to your spouse. And then where does that leave time for real estate? There's nothing left. I'm way more passionate about real estate than I am about football. Football to me is just a job. So it was actually pretty easy to walk away in a fairly smooth transition into life after football, just being a real estate investor and being a speaker.
Right. And I want to talk about that too, because that's one thing I definitely see with professional athletes across the board is, as a fan or someone who's spectating, all you ever see is the game. And so, people are like, oh, all they do is just go out there and play, they get paid, like their life is easy. You just mentioned, you're working 12, 13-hour days sometime. What are your thoughts on that?
Obviously, we get paid a lot of money for what we do. People don't see the other side of it. And that's probably the journeyman aspect. I'd say the wealth distribution and the inequalities as it pertains to the NFL is almost equal to how it is in the United States. You got the 3% and the 97%, or as some people say, the 1% and the other 99%. It's essentially the same thing. You got your 3 or 4 guys on every single roster who's getting paid, millions of dollars. And the lifestyle that comes with it is, you got some pretty solid stability. You're a franchise player. The club loves you, and you can plan that you're going to probably be in that city for the length of their contract because of the investment that the club has put into you. But for a guy like myself and like the other 97% of the players, a lot of us are journeymen. Meaning, me, I played for 3 years and I played for 3 teams, which is a lot for someone, especially once after you have kids. And some people have kids when they first start. It's a lot. It does a lot to your mental, moving city to city to city. And at any moment, you don't realize that you're always just on thin ice. Like you can get cut for not even doing something wrong. You could get cut because someone else got hurt and they need to bring somebody else in for that position. But because you only can have 53 people on the roster and you're the 53rd in terms of how much we really need you, then boom, you're cut. So you're cut for, the week, and then that player gets better, and then they bring you back for, say, practice squad, and then you're on practice squad, and then a week later, a different team, somebody gets hurt at your position, and because of how the NFL works, a team can take you off of your practice squad, so then you get taken off your practice squad, and then you got to move to a whole nother city. Just people don't realize or take into account the fact that you might have an entire family. You might have kids. You might have issues going on with your own life, but you don't realize that this is a part of the job, and this is kind of what comes with like the entire experience.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's it's interesting to hear that perspective because you really that's the first time I'm even thinking about NFL athletes from a 97 to 3% perspective.
Absolutely, that journeyman tag is something that. It's real. It'll do damage to your mental health because there's no certainty, there's no security in your future. So you could be working on a business deal or meeting a lot of great people in that market or really starting to fall in love with that place and maybe want to grow a future there. And then boom, you're cut just like that. Now you're in another city just like that overnight.
Wow.
And overnight meaning you're cut and you get like that night you'll be flown into that next city. have a physical the very next morning, and be at practice the next day. And like everything else is just supposed to fall into place. People aren't taking into account that what about this guy's family life?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? What if this guy plays the saxophone and he has a gig coming up at the end of the week? Because I play the saxophone. That's the reason why I use that random. But like things like that, it just aren't necessarily taken into account of personal life. Like if you think of any other job, there's no other job like that in the world. Like imagine if you worked at Staples and then at any moment you could just be fired, or if you're, a teacher or a police officer or a doctor and you just get cut from your hospital. Now you get placed in another hospital across the country. Like what's the difference?
Really? Yeah, that's wow. Very interesting. Shifting back to real estate now, we're going to step into what I like to call the next level chamber. As a multifamily real estate syndicator, at what moment in your career now did you realize like, wow, this is something I want to take to the next level?
I just finished my second year, and it was January 1st. Well, it was actually like November, and I made the decision that I didn't want to be this small-time real estate investor just buying fourplexes and duplexes. I wanted to buy larger apartment complexes. And I read this book called Multifamily Millions by David Lindahl. Amazing, amazing book. It just kind of really sets the blueprint to purchasing apartment buildings, and set a game plan, hired a demographer to decide which markets I wanted to focus on and look at and start to actually meet brokers in. And because I was really bad with the census website and the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. So I paid $150 and they kind of aggregated all the data into the filters that I had specified, and then called up the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Committee of all those markets and asked them questions like, what are you guys doing to maintain this job growth? What type of incentives are you offering big businesses to move here? How many permits are out for construction? And things like that, to really, really be confident in the markets that I wanted to decide on. When January 1st hit, because Lions most definitely did not make the playoffs that year, I set off on the road. I had 5 markets that I designated that I wanted to visit and build teams in. And that's what I did. So January 1st comes, I left Detroit and went to Phoenix for 3 days, went to Las Vegas for 3 days, went from Vegas to Columbia, South Carolina to Indianapolis, and then Indianapolis to St. Louis, and then St. Louis back to Detroit. And in all those markets, I built out teams, meeting property managers, meeting brokers, attorneys, NFL players that actually live in that market, and using this site called Bigger Pockets, which is like a Facebook for real estate investment, and leveraging it to find investors who live in those markets and actually sitting down with them for coffee and checking out their properties and things like that. And it was at that moment when I realized like I was on fire, and like I loved what I was doing. I was like, I can do this for the rest of my life. Was ripping and running. Actually went under contract on like a 67 unit apartment complex in St. Louis. The seller wound up being like a liar, and the numbers were off by about $200,000 once I actually put the offer in and went under contract. So I had to actually walk away from that.
Wow.
But after a 2-month process of negotiating the purchase price and actually getting it under contract and then backing away from it, after that process ended, OTAs started up again for next season, and it was like I was on fire, and then it was just like slamming your foot on the brakes after going, 85 miles an hour in the fast lane. That was kind of when I really started to have kind of friction in my life. Like, I'm not doing what I really love to do. Like I'm playing football, but I'm thinking about real estate. Like as the season kind of ended, this last final season that just passed, I'd catch myself in meetings where half of the page would be team that we're playing, Dallas Cowboys, who to look for, Sean Lee, this guy, that guy, this guy. Then the other half of the page is investors to call, brokers to call, properties to analyze, and things like that. It's like getting prepared so I could take advantage of every single second when I got home, because when I got home, I had to hang out with the baby, be a dad and be a fiance, and then take care of all that stuff really quick so I can go to sleep and be up for the next day for football again. That was that next level moment.
Yeah, and it's interesting how similar that process of becoming a syndicator for you is to so many other commercial real estate syndicators that I know as well. When they first get into this world, they're normally working somewhere else. Any time or any amount of time that they have outside of that primary focus of work goes towards that addiction to investing and networking and growing that side business, got to give you credit, because there's a lot of people that get stuck there. They can't let go of that security that they kind of have with that primary job. They never make that full jump into becoming full time with real estate. So yeah, it's just interesting how even someone who's playing in the NFL is in a similar position to maybe someone who's working at Ernst & Young or another company.
Absolutely.
Like that, right?
No, I 100%. I mean, I see no difference between an NFL player and someone there. It's a job like anything else. You're in a bunch of meetings all day, and while you're at lunch, we're just on the field for an hour and a half, and then we're back to meetings the rest of the day.
Right. I noticed you said Arizona, you said South Carolina, Columbia, Detroit, St. Louis, and I think you mentioned you said Vegas as well. So Vegas and Columbia, I know, are two markets that have a lot of positive speculation right now. The other three, actually, I should say Phoenix as well. But I just noticed you said Detroit and St. Louis, which are both places where it seems like you already had a network. Is that why you gravitated towards some of these markets?
Yes, and that was kind of back then. My actual investment strategy and markets have shifted a little bit, but yeah, St. Louis, because of my fiance and her family being here. Detroit, because I already had property there, because when I was on the Lions, I bought a duplex there and lived in one side and Airbnb the other side, so I could live for free while I was playing with the Lions. Made a lot. I mean, my real estate attorney in my business now, he's located in Detroit, and I'm doing a lot of other business with those business partners that I have made in the Detroit market. Not sure about. We're in talks about potentially purchasing a property in Detroit. I'm in a certain area of Detroit, but just kind of the way Detroit goes, it's good to not talk about it until you actually do it, because you can create a lot of speculation, almost ruin some people's lives or investments in whatever they're already doing there, just by mentioning something small like that, like on what I'm saying, like on a podcast. Then it kind of gets out, and then you kind of create that false speculation if we don't actually follow through with it. But I like Detroit. I was just living in there. I was living in Detroit at the time when I was doing that. Yeah, it was awesome. I still remember that trip. It was, 2.5 weeks just on the road, just with a backpack and a notebook in hand, just making it happen.
Any team members that you've worked with along the way that you want to just take a quick moment to give them some kudos and just be like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you?
I wouldn't have closed on this property I just closed on recently without one of my recent teammates, my old teammates from my rookie year. His name's Xavier Williams. He's the man. We actually partnered up on this deal I'm doing in Des Moines, Iowa. And then I just got, teammates who've kept me sane just along the way. Rob Kimdichi from Arizona, Ifani Moma, tight end who's from Arizona, and kind of been just my mentor and one of my best friends since day one. And then while I was in Detroit, brought a group of guys together, and we would come over to my house maybe once a week, and my fiance would make some solid dinner and some dessert, and we'd just chat about just shifting their mindset and talking about investments. And I had a really, really big library in my house, and would give them a book to check out and read for the week, and they'd bring it back whenever in the locker room, a couple days after, or a couple weeks after. Another guy, big shout out, is Luke Wilson. He really kept me sane this past year in Detroit. That was my really, really, really good friend while we were playing there together. He's just very, very insightful and asks a lot of questions about a lot of different things. And kind of, questions is something that can always help you think and grow more just by your thought process and just answering them.
Yeah. And talking now again about maybe the players that are in that 3% that you mentioned, are there any relationships there that you have? I'm just thinking more from our listeners, any big names that you're still friends with, or that you work with, or that are interested in commercial investing, multifamily investing?
That are necessarily interested? Yeah, you could say Quandre Diggs is a really, really good friend of mine, and we talked a lot about investing while I was playing in Detroit. Had some conversations, with his financial advisor. I'm showing him some of the deals that, we're doing, just because, sometimes the financial advisor can understand a lot of the things on a different level. I'm trying to think of any other players. There's a lot of guys trying to keep a lot of them a little bit more confidentiality. But it's been awesome. They're all pretty receptive to it. But what you'll notice too, with a lot of the larger guys, more big name guys, there's a little bit more of a disconnect between, I wouldn't say them and their money, but their financial advisors and their wealth advisors kind of handle all of that. And a lot of those guys can be a lot more hands off when it comes to the investment world. And just kind of, their investment advisor allocates, say, I don't know, $500,000 or $1 million a year towards investments, and that investment advisor is going to put his money into deals that investment advisor, guys who he's friends with, different operators in that space that he's friends with, to kind of keep their money growing. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's an untouchable place. It can be kind of different with some of those bigger name guys. As relationships grow and continue to mold and grow, hopefully we can be doing some of those type of deals together as well.
Right. Yeah, I'd say in regards to, I'd say NFL athletes specifically, but maybe any athletes, you're the biggest thought leader that I know of in this field. So, and it's early, so we'll see how big you grow this thing, man.
Exactly. We're still at the starting line, really trying to build my credibility and my own personal portfolio as well, and gain that trust even more and more, and continue to tell my story on these different platforms and just tell my truths as I keep hitting these base hits. Not necessarily looking for home runs, because the base hits is necessarily going to make you really win the game.
Absolutely. All right, Hakeem, I got 3 fun questions for you to close this one out and make everyone feel like they got to know you a little bit more today. The first one is, what is your favorite candy bar? Second one is, what's your favorite video game? And then the third one would be, what was your favorite thing about your NFL experience?
Wow. Okay. First one, I'd say favorite candy is, can it be like Skittles count?
We can do Skittles. I'm a pretty big Skittles fan myself. Actually, I have some right here.
That's awesome. And I got a funny story with Skittles. So when I was in middle school, back to just being an entrepreneur, I used to hustle the purple wild berry Skittles. I would have my mom go to Sam's Club, and she'd buy me the 36 box of Skittles for $13. And I'd go to school every day and sell those bags of Skittles for $1 each and make $23 per box. I'd go to school with 2 backpacks. One would be my books, and the other bag would have Skittles in it. And since then, I love those purple wild berry Skittles.
Yeah, that's what I have. I'm not even playing right now.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious that you have those. And then the second question was, what's the second question again?
Favorite video game.
Oh, that's a rough question, because I personally I don't play video. I literally haven't had a game system. Like, my last game system is like the original Xbox 360. So that was like fifth, sixth grade. But like, games that I'll play that I enjoy, I like FIFA. I like FIFA. I can play it pretty solid. I'm terrible at Madden, terrible at 2K. I like Grand Theft Auto back in the day, but probably FIFA. Like, today, if someone was to ask me, hey, you want to play video games? What game do you want to play? It would definitely be FIFA. But anything else, I think I wouldn't say it's the biggest waste of time, because it's definitely escapism, and everybody has their own version and way to escape life. But for me personally, and just where I'm at in life, I just don't necessarily have time to play video games right now.
Right.
And then lastly, you said the favorite experience or favorite part of the NFL?
Just, what do you think was the biggest lesson that you learned, or the greatest experience you had while you were playing?
Oh, okay. I think probably one of the biggest lessons is just short-term memory, and like not dwelling on things, just because it's kind of one of the things in the NFL that'll get you cut. Like, you drop a ball in practice and you dwell on it, and then you drop another ball, you're going to get cut. You know what I mean? Like, if you drop a ball and then you have that short-term memory, like, who cares? And you go out and keep balling, that's what's going to keep you a job. Like, my very first game that I got to play in, because I was practice squad my first couple weeks of my rookie year, and Darren Fells had gotten like a stinger, so he was out for 2 weeks, and I got promoted to 53 man, and we were playing in San Francisco for Thursday night football, and I had caught in a ball during camp with this play. It was like this play action play, and I ran for like 40 yards, and they called it, and I'm like, whoa, like, this is my ball, like, I might score on this. I was freaking out, and they called the play. I run it, boom, shoot, right through my hands. I drop it, and I was like, oh my gosh. And like that, like, it hurt, and like there was no one out in front of me. I probably would have scored, say, a 65, 70-yard touchdown.
Wow.
And very next play, I had a rub route concept with Larry Fitzgerald, and I was setting a pick on his man, and he was going to get the ball. So I set the pick, but you're supposed to be like inconspicuous, so like the referees don't see you. And I guess I wasn't inconspicuous enough. And so Larry catches it. He runs for about 40 yards and flag on the play. Offensive pass
Oh
interference
man.
on me. And I'm freaking out because like Thursday night football, they have, besides the regular cameras, there's also the on-field camera that's hanging from that string, and like that can like actually follow players and things like that. So like now I'm jogging back to the huddle, and there's this camera that's just like following me, and I'm in the huddle, and the camera, like I could touch it. It's like right behind me. I'm like, I know they're just ripping me on TV right now. Like, oh, it's rookie, first opportunity, drops the ball on his first play, next play gets an offensive pass interference, and I'm like going over the narrative like in my head, like freaking out. But like after that, I just remember like Carson Palmer and Larry just really just kind of just like, you got this, like next play, you're all good, like nobody's mad at you. And like I'm like all apologizing to everybody in the huddle, and everybody's just like next play. And I really just kind of got over it like right then and there and dropped it. And kind of same thing. I know if people who have dwelled in situations like that and just been gloomy and, you know, down personality on the sideline, making mistakes the rest of the game. Like if I would have done that, that would have been my last NFL game. And having that short-term memory and that next play mentality is probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned, because you need to be that way in business and in life, and just not, I wouldn't say like, I think it's awesome and amazing to be in touch with your emotions, because I'd say that I'm someone who's very in touch with his emotions. I also think you have to have a short-term mentality and just a non-dwelling mentality. Like, okay, you know, this property, say it flooded last night. Are you going to dwell for the next 2 weeks, or are you going to start making something happen? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like There's dwellers and there's go-getters. And I think not dwelling is something that I really, really took from the NFL. I know this is supposed to be like a fire round. Sorry for the super long-winded answers.
Yeah, but hey, it's a very quote-worthy answer. So we thank you. Thank you for sharing it. What's the best?
No doubt.
What's the best way my listeners can follow up and get in touch with you if they have any questions?
I mean, any way, like LinkedIn, it's just Hakeem Valles. My Instagram and Twitter is at HakValles80, just HAKVALLES, and then the number 80. And I think a thing that I try and say a lot when I speak too is the fortune is in the follow-up, and which you'll see on most podcasts, most hosts will say the same thing. You know, is there a way that people can reach out to you and ask questions and things like that? And people always give out their contact information, their social media handles, but who's actually following up with those people? Because like, I mean, me personally, like I follow up on everything. Like anybody shoots me a DM, comments on my picture, anything, like you're going to get a response back from me. So if you are interested, feel free to reach out because I follow up.
Perfect. I love that. I'm gonna do my best to always follow up now, even more that you said that. So thank you.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of opportunity just comes from following up like that. I actually heard that quote. I can't remember his name. He's an NFL player. I was at a business academy and he was the big speaker for it. And that was what he said. Fortune is in the follow up, because like it's where the gold is actually, we get opportunities presented to us. We get, somebody will say, hey, I got this guy who I can introduce you to who does X, Y, and Z. But people don't follow up on those type of opportunities. When people say that, I'll be the guy who follows up. If you ever offer something, just know I'll be asking you about it probably soon.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Hakeem, thanks again for coming on the show. This has been a very fun and definitely educational conversation as well.
Absolutely, Adam. It was my pleasure. I really, really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Guys, thank you for tuning into Dream Chasers, Interviews with the Future. We will catch you in the next episode. Remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.